How's it going, Andrew?
What's going on, Matt?
Not much. Had a little bit of a busy weekend. We had the Worshipful Master and Senior Warden get together yesterday. A little cookout.
How'd it go?
For District 12. It went well. I wish more people would have been able to make it, but it was a good social event. A lot of good talks about things going on around the district. So it was good. How was your match today?
Oh man, this might have been the hardest match I've ever done. It was basically 90-something degrees, no wind, super humid. I played 4 quarters. When I got off the pitch at halftime, my mom was watching the game and she had like ice water and I just poured it on my head and held ice on the back of my neck because I was like, I think I'm going to faint. Like, I'm so overheated. But it's fun. One of the better games I've played. I was very involved, a lot of playmaking, playing on defense. I was very aggressive until I started getting so tired that I thought I was going to die. But up to that point, it was good. But it was fun. We won. We won by a couple points.
It was a really hot one. And now you know all the reasons why I've said no to playing hurling.
Fall ball is better, dude, when it's like cool and easy, dude.
Fall's bow hunting season, so good luck selling me on that one.
It was fun, but yeah, it was a hard-fought game, and honestly, by the 4th quarter, looking down the field, there were just people just not even running anymore. They were just like staring at the ground, and then they're like, oh, I gotta run again. And it got real sloppy as everyone was just getting so dehydrated. 2 people threw up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember 2 days in high school in 90-degree heat in August was ridiculous, and that was as like a high schooler. Like, they would take it out of you. So I can't even imagine now, especially me. I know I'm older than you, but as a 41-year-old man trying to run around a pitch for however long in 90-degree heat just does not know.
It was hard because like there was no wind. So like when you would breathe, you would just feel hot air, and then you'd breathe out and it would just be hotter air coming out. And you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then on the 3rd quarter, the breeze picked up, and I literally stood there with my arms out like I was crucified. And I was just like, I feel the breeze. Like, my body temp's too hot. But it was fun. It was overall fun. I kept having to tell myself to smile in my inner monologues. Be like, remember, you came here to have fun, right? Like that.
You came here to have fun,
and I did.
And now you're dying.
I found I play better that if I remember to smile once in a while and be like, don't get too serious. Like, just laugh. And I chirp and yell at people and, shout down the field at people to cheer if I'm shouting down the field, being like, let's go, I saw that play, screaming it down. That's not for them. It's for me to pump myself up so I can feel like I'm having fun instead of being exhausted.
I've done that one. Yeah, for sure. Well, considering that you showed up considerably late, we should probably run the intro and get to our very interesting guest for today.
My bad, brother. We'll get it going.
Loosen up your ties and roll up your sleeves. It's time for Fellowship with Matt and Andrew. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views and opinions of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin or any other Grand Lodge or any appended body.
Today we have a very special guest with us. We have Worshipful Brother Paul Larson, past master of Jefferson County Lodge number 9 and current district deputy for District 9 of the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin. Thanks for being on, Paul.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for coming. Double 9s. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're running a little bit late and keeping him from his doing some more barbecue work at home. I'm guessing.
Probably, yes.
Yeah. He's a big barbecue guy, Andrew. He's got 4 different outdoor cooking utensils at home.
Ooh, I just got gifted a green egg that does, and I've never done any smoking of any meats, and I think it's about time I try. So I might have Matt come over and show me how to make things happen.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out that green egg. I've never used one before either, but it should be pretty. I hear they maintain a fire really well.
They do. So. And you know the story. I mean, once you turn 40, you're not 40 yet, but once you turn 40, you either learn everything about the Civil War or you get into smoking meat. Those are 2 options that you got.
I've also noticed that people who smoke meat, also there's a lot of crossover with home brewers. Like, it's like a similar patience process where they're like, I like to make beer, meats.
That's something I've always wanted to dive into, was home brewing.
How did I guess?
What?
How did I know?
Yeah,
because you smoke meats.
Because I smoke meats.
I did it once and blew the door off my fridge, so I've never done it again.
got a little too much pressure
A
going
little too much, yeah.
Oops.
That'll happen. Probably too much sugar content.
I don't know. I've never done it again, so
Just like you touched your hand on the stove. You're like,
that's one and done.
I'm pretty sure that would be one where my wife would be like, yeah, you don't get to do that anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I tried to brew beer once, and my buddy had gifted me this whole set. It was very expensive, and I was like, okay, and we're going to brew it together. That's the only way I accepted. But it didn't come with a cork for the top. The cork that he had was too big, so he took a pocket knife and tried to whittle it down, shoved it in there, and then the next day I come out and it popped out, and the thing was contaminated. And I was like, man, that was a good 2 hours that I spent making this to dump it out in my yard.
Yeah, that'll happen. I suppose
That's
we should
my
actually,
hand on stove situation. Where I've done it since.
we should probably get to our actual topic for today.
Oh, yeah.
And get talking to Paul here a little bit. So, Paul, you've been a Mason for about 6 years now?
Yep, October 19th, 2018.
Perfect. Just shortly after me, actually, then, because I was the end of August of 18.
Ah, right.
So, awesome. So you moved through the lines pretty quick then over there to be a worshipful brother already and in a district role.
Yeah, Jefferson, when I joined Jefferson, there was a spot in the line, so I just ended up taking it and been loving it ever since.
Sweet.
What originally brought you to Freemasonry?
The first time?
Either time. Because if the first time and the second time, if you stuck around, that means there's a good reason to stay around.
See, now that you brought it up, I feel like we just have to dive into it. Right?
All right, we can do it that way.
What brought me to Masonry was fellowship, just to surround myself with men that I could trust. Growing as a person, but just looking for friends and people that I could confide in.
Sure. I mean, I think it's one of the better reasons to join, and something that, we talk a lot about how desperately it's needed in modern society to have that type of fellowship and that type of friendships in a community. It's one of these cool things that, like, I don't know if you can put a price tag on it.
No, you can't. You look at your friends, your circle of friends that aren't in the craft, and the difference in the relationships with the people that aren't Freemasons as opposed to the ones that you develop as a Freemason. There's nothing that compares to the fellowship like that we've had since walking in. Just knowing that you've got a brother.
Right. Yeah, we actually maintained a very good conversation and talked about a lot of different things waiting for you to get here.
See, now I don't even feel
Seamlessly.
bad. I don't even feel bad for being an hour late.
You should feel bad, though.
I actually feel good now.
All right. Well, so since Andrew kind of broached the topic and kind of gave us a little lead into it already, or at least has our listeners curious at this point after saying the first time or the second time. So you've been a Mason with the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin for about 6 years.
Yes.
Now. And prior to that, you had unfortunately found yourself in a clandestine organization.
Yeah, 2 years before I became a regular Mason, I inadvertently, unknowingly joined a clandestine lodge. I didn't know the difference between clandestine and regular at that time. I was just following a guy that I had known, and he was a Mason, so he wanted to know if I would like to be a Mason. I said, sure, why not? So I ended up joining a lodge that was not regular and went through the process with clandestine Masonry.
Right. And I think that's a very easy thing with the number of irregular clandestine lodges that are out there. I think that's a very easy thing to have happen. And sometimes I kind of ask myself, how many good men are ending up in these wrong kind of organizations that should actually be over here where they could thrive in regular Freemasonry?
I think more than you would know. Just the amount of clandestine lodges that are in southeastern Wisconsin, for instance, the ones that I've looked into or been part of or seen before I came to the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin, there's so many. They're out there. Brick and mortar buildings with square and compasses that would look just like our buildings, but they're not.
So these type of clandestine lodges, are they... So it's my understanding that in the area we have the Le Droit Humain, like the what I'd call a regular Masonry, where it's the French Rite type of continental stuff, and they're kind of centrally organized in a way. But it's my understanding that a lot of them are just individually organized, like a place just pops up with one.
Yeah, they're all... Yeah, a pop-up lodge. That's kind of an interesting way to think about it. The lodge that I was part of met in a conference room in a hotel.
Okay.
Once a month, they would get together, and we all had black suits and white gloves, and everything looked like what I had seen on TV or in the movies.
Right.
And I had no reason to suspect otherwise. But they would just meet in a conference room of a hotel and go through the degrees and go through meetings. The biggest difference is they don't promote memorization like we do. So meetings, when they would open up, they would read from a book in every chair. So, but again, not knowing anything about clandestine or regular Masonry, I had no reason to know.
Right. Well, and that's something that can slightly change from jurisdiction to jurisdiction too. I understand that the United Grand Lodge of England doesn't necessarily put as much of a stake in memorization as we do either, especially for like degree work. So, I mean, but that's, yeah, something as an outsider, your first time going in, you'd have no way to know that that's not typical, right?
Correct.
And I feel like the crazy thing is like, now once you're in regular Masonry, we know all the crazy structure things. You're like, well, then there's this body, and then they're in amity with that body. But these guys sometimes aren't amity, like all the cultural landscape, but like that information isn't always readily available unless you know how to find it. So there's really no way that someone who, without just like, luck of the draw, they Googled the right thing and ended up at the right website. It's very easy just to be like, why would it? You are always going to assume that something is lawful until proven otherwise. So,
right.
How would you ever figure that out? Besides knowing how, just that's why it's nice that we do a lot of this visibility work right now to make sure that people are like, no, you can see the actual legitimate lodges because we're visible. Whereas if you're invisible, who knows? You see a place with a square and compass, you go, well, that's probably the place.
Correct.
Right. What was their pitch like when you were first showing interest in it? Was it pretty much like the same pitch you would get from like a regular lodge, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. The same questions were asked, the same goals, the same direction of personal growth and meeting brothers and having a larger community to rely on. It was all the same thing.
Interesting.
How did they deal with travel? Did they have a network of lodges that they were somehow affiliated with to allow brothers to go back and forth, or were they kind of on their own little island?
Kind of on their own little island. It was always said when you become a Master Mason, you'll get a dues card and you can go to any lodge wherever you want. This lodge that I was part of actually did have dues cards, and they look very similar to what we have. The ritual and the work that they do is very similar to what we know.
Right.
Problem is when you try to go to another lodge, like I did when the lodge that I was part of stopped meeting, and I wanted to continue my journey, and I reached out to Jefferson and asked about coming down. I realized very quickly, or I found out very quickly, that I was not welcome.
Wow.
What was the history of this lodge that you joined? Like, did they explain how they came into being? Like, what's their lineage that they kind of explained how they became a lodge and got to the place they were?
That type of conversation never came up. It wasn't important, so it wasn't really talked about. They had their Grand Lodge was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So the officers of the lodge would go down to Atlanta once a year. All of the dues, over $1,000 in dues that I paid for the 3 degrees. Just for the degree
monthly
fees.
dues?
I didn't have any at that time.
Okay.
It was set up just like us, where it was you pay your degree fees as you're going through, but you don't pay monthly due or yearly dues until you become a Master Mason. Right. But the degree fees were $400 each.
Oh my God.
And then there was a $400 petition process. And again, at that time, not knowing anything,
right.
I just... You know what you see in movies. You know what you read on the internet, which is a lot of it is garbage. So I didn't know any different and just paid it and went along.
Right. That makes sense. I think it's important for this kind of information to be out there to like educate the public, or maybe reach out to somebody who is involved in one of these organizations right now and get it out to them, and hopefully make them realize that they aren't a bogus organization, and their money's probably not even necessarily going to what they think it's going to, and things like that. I know, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but I know the initiatic experience was not necessarily the best thing while you were there. So I'll leave that up to you as to how much you would like to say about it. But I think it's important for people to be able to hear it, because they might hear what your experience was and go, oh crap, I'm in that organization.
Yeah, there was hazing. There was physical hazing through all 3 of my degrees, without getting too deep in the weeds. Obviously, the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin, there's no hazing.
Right.
There's nothing nefarious that happens. That was not the case when I was going through that.
Right.
It almost sounds like somebody who wanted to create this order was from a college fraternity and was like, well, we'll just bring similar stuff in here. And we know how to do fraternities. We did Greek fraternities. Why can't we create our new Masonic one based on, what's out there?
And to me, while I was going through it, that was actually in the back of my head, because I didn't know anything about Freemasonry other than it was a fraternal organization.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't join a college fraternity, but I've heard stories. And
Right.
so I figured, well, if it's a fraternity and there's hazing, then, that is what it is.
That's the standard
And
thing. Yeah.
So, okay, cool. This is what I guess what I'm going to end up going through.
right.
The
right.
key to college fraternities is they're not doing it to full-grown adults, because it gets a little dicey when you're trying to haze a full-grown adult and they're like, wait, what are you doing right now? Like,
Right. Right. Yeah. That's crazy to hear about going on, and crazy how much they can look and act like our organization, and honestly end up painting it into probably a pretty negative light for a lot of people that stumble across it.
Yeah, it would definitely turn some people off, I would think. But you're right. They do. They look and act just almost the same as we do. You can go on Amazon and buy a Masonic ring. You can,
Right.
you don't have to fill out a form to buy an apron and have it delivered to your house. You can just buy an apron. So they can make themselves look and feel just like a regular Mason.
Right.
What would you say your most positive experiences were being within that organization, and what would you say your most negative experiences would be?
My most positive experience by being clandestine Masonry was just opening my mind to Freemasonry. The lectures and everything that's discussed in Lodge, because it's so similar to what we know, I wanted more, and I wanted to keep going. I'm fortunate, I really feel like I'm fortunate that the Lodge that I was part of did collapse.
Okay.
Because if it didn't, who knows how much longer it would have taken me to find regular Masonry. So for me, it opened up my eyes and made me want to continue going. And here I am today. The most negative thing, getting hazed as a grown adult is pretty rough. And the financial contribution that was required to go through, it's just when you get taken advantage of and you're trying to be trusting and you're trying to be that guy that just wants the brotherhood, right? And you go through that and you get duped and you get made. It's humbling. It's humbling to sit here and talk about it.
Right.
It's definitely not something I'm proud of.
Sure.
It's embarrassing, to be honest, but in the same respect, it should be talked about because more people should know about it.
And it's embarrassing because it never feels good to be duped.
Right.
But it could happen to any person who is trying to join an organization, because they are preying on people and they are purposely making themselves look so indistinguishable. They could have websites, they can have all this stuff, so that they're just preying on people looking for light and looking for fellowship, and they're just taking advantage of people. And, I'd like to say that doesn't fall on you as someone who's just an innocent person looking for Freemasonry. It falls on them. And it's good that they collapsed, because they were running something when they're telling people, hey, you can travel to any lodge. That's not self-sufficient, because eventually one of those members will travel to a lodge, and then the illusion's broken, where you're like, wait,
correct.
what?
The gig is up. And I would agree with you, Andrew, that, it's definitely on them being on praying people. Like, you didn't know any better, honestly. Like, so, like, you have I can understand why it's embarrassing, but you have nothing to be embarrassed about.
Thank you. And that's another reason why I'm comfortable talking about it now. I'm at a point in my life now where I realize that it's more important that I get past that and try to share the story to help other people, so that they know that there's guys out there that are good, that want to be Masons, that just don't know the difference.
Right. And I really appreciate when you shared your story at annual communication, I was like, wow, that is an impressive story, and definitely one that I want to hear more about, and I think could help people. That was one of the first things that popped into my head, is there's probably a lot of people out there falling into this trap and having no idea what they actually got themselves into.
And outside of my home lodge, I've not really talked about this story. And when Most Worshipful Dave Ritchie asked me to talk about that at annual communication, it kind of set me back a little bit. I had to think about, really putting myself out there. And you know what? I'm glad I did, because it's gotten good response. I've had some amazing conversations with some amazing brothers about this. So it was humbling, and I'm glad I did it. Good.
It takes courage to do that. And, I only just met you, but I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Thanks.
Because no one feels super stoked about saying they've been taken advantage of or duped by another group. But it's important, because I guarantee you're not alone in the amount of brothers who have come back into regular Freemasonry with a bumpy start through an organization who's preying on them. And I think it takes a lot of bravery, and it's really cool that you did that.
Thanks.
I think another good topic to touch on with this would actually be for those people out there that might hear this that are involved in those organizations. Okay, so obviously when you first arrived at Jefferson Lodge, the thing was like, no, you're not a Mason, you can't come in, right? Was probably the initial reaction.
Yeah.
But obviously they did something right, and this might be helpful for even other regular lodges and regular Masons that are listening. Obviously they did something right to convince you to stick around and check out regular Freemasonry. So what was that first experience like after they were kind of like, hey, no, this isn't like a recognized organization? Where did it go from there that it made you be willing to come over to Wisconsin Freemasonry and see what regular Freemasonry was like?
So when that lodge folded that I was part of, and I just went onto Facebook and was looking, and I noticed that Jefferson County Lodge number 9 was right down the road from my house. And I thought, well, why didn't I do this a while ago?
Right.
So I Facebook messaged the lodge and just said, hey, I'm Brother Paul Larson. I'm a member of this lodge. I'd really like to, what are your meeting nights? I'd like to participate. I got this great response back. Brother Larson, it's great to hear from you. We'd love to have you. Let me just verify some stuff and I'll get back to you. And then the next message I got was Mr. Larson. And I went, wait a minute, what?
What changed?
Right. Huh? So the first message I got was Brother Larson, and then the second one was Mr. Larson. And that's when the secretary of that lodge, and I can't imagine the position he was in when he had to place that message to me, was you're not actually a regular Mason. That lodge that you're part of is not recognized. Unfortunately, you can't just come down. If you'd like to come down and meet with us and talk about it, we'd love to have you. And it took me a couple of weeks to process that because I was devastated, right? Like, I certainly didn't want to go through what I just went through again.
Yeah, and you don't know what.
And I had no reason to think it would be better.
Sure.
Right.
I went down and met with an interviewing committee, and I met with 3 amazing men that are still some of my best friends and active in that lodge, and made the decision to go through all 3 degrees again.
What is the process exactly for? Do they call it like healing or something, where they take a clandestine Mason and then they reintegrate them into regular Masonry?
If I remember correctly, I signed a document dispelling clandestine Masonry and letting the Grand Lodge at that time know that my intent was not to be a clandestine Mason, because it wasn't.
Right.
Yep.
And that I was discontinuing all communication with them. So I signed that, and then I went through all 3 degrees again, just like every other man that knocks on the door does.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, especially, I mean, you kind of have to go through all 3 again, right? Because we don't know what you were told at that clandestine lodge. So in order to get you the proper and bring you up to speed with any other regular Freemason, yeah, you kind of got to go through them all.
Let me tell you that first time I knocked on the door again, when I was in Jefferson, I was terrified because I didn't want to go through it again. And by the time I walked out of my entered apprentice degree, I was in tears because it was so beautiful. I was moved because that's the way it's supposed to be done.
Right.
Yep, because you're supposed to be in the hands of a trusty brother to lead you through the degree.
Correct.
And it must feel good when you're actually put in the hands of someone
Sure
you can
was.
trust to lead you through the degree.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm so passionate about it now, and trying to help the guys that are coming through and mentoring them and staying in conversations with them.
So once you came over from your clandestine lodge folded, do you know why they folded? Was it just they were poorly structured, I assume?
Poorly structured. A couple of the guys that were in charge fell into legal troubles.
Fancy that.
surprising.
Fancy that.
Right, weird. And they all of a sudden weren't showing up anymore, so the lodge just kind of stopped meeting.
When you came over to regular Masonry, have any of those contacts tried to reach out to you? Have there been any sort of blowback from the clandestine lodge since you switched over?
No, there hasn't been any blowback. There's one brother from that lodge that is a brother in Wisconsin Freemasonry. He was smart enough to come over before I did and joined. He was one of the 2 guys that whispered good counsel in my ear once I realized what was going on, and he pointed me in the direction of proper Masonry, and I can't thank that guy enough. We're still in contact. We don't live in the same city, but he lives in southeastern Wisconsin, and we stay in contact quite a bit.
That's good.
That's good. That is good.
So you can tell that the reason they don't contact you is because they run a scam where they're basically trying to get degree fees. And then if you find out, then you leave and they go, cool, I got the money. And you go, great.
Right.
So they're probably pretty easy just to let people go when they realize they're catching wind of them. So once you came over to regular Masonry, what made you stay within the regular lodge? What has been motivating you to be an active, because you're a very active Mason, you're a district deputy and all that stuff. What has given you so much passion for Freemasonry?
Friends, growth. The men that I met in Jefferson that I'm friends with, we have dinners together, you go out, our wives are friends, you develop a sense of community. And you develop a sense of community with men that don't judge you but whisper good counsel, rather than leading you down this path. Everybody kind of goes down this path. And that's one of the reasons that I stayed as active as I have. And then when you start traveling to other lodges and you start meeting other Masons that are in relatively the same community, right? Because you've got multiple lodges in the community. Now you have more friends. Then you join appendant bodies. I'm active in the Scottish Rite, Valley of Madison, and then you meet brothers from outside of the state. And that's, you can go anywhere in the state of Wisconsin as a Wisconsin Mason and you're going to have a friend instantly. You can go anywhere in Illinois or Michigan or anywhere. I travel for work, so I get to go to lodges outside of the state quite frequently and see other rituals. And that's one of the things that keeps me is the brotherhood of good men.
Yeah, so when you're traveling, what's the coolest lodge you visited on your travels? What's one that sticks out in your mind from your traveling man days?
Well, there's many that stick out for different reasons. Pennsylvania was pretty amazing. They had the mast of one of the ships from the Mayflower.
Wow.
One of the masts from the ship of that group. The lodge, when you get out into that part of the country, because, Masonic history back out in that area, the lodges are just so beautiful and they've got such history and such great stories. Mm-hmm. And they're so very different than ours. Like the ritual itself is different. Some of the chairs are even different. So it's just cool to go out and see some of those lodges and the differences. And when you travel as a Mason for work, when I can arrive in a city and if I'm in contact with the lodge before I get there, you got a brother to go have dinner with, and rather than just sit in the hotel by yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Right. For sure. Like you said before, it's a huge community.
Yeah.
Gives you the benefit of being able to know somebody, or at least get to know somebody anywhere you go. And I think part of the beauty of it is you have common ground with them instantly. Because if you have nothing else to talk about, or if you don't know each other well enough to know hobbies, you can start with Masonry, which will always take you into different topics.
It's a massive door opener. Yes.
Yep. What would you say is the biggest lesson you've taken away from Freemasonry?
Ooh. Wow. Yeah, I might lean back in my chair right now. Not to judge so quickly. Masonry doesn't regard a man for his wealth, right? Or his social status or his place in the community. Or we all meet on the level. And having that in the back of my head, you don't pass judgment on people as quickly, and you give people more of an opportunity to express themselves and be themselves. That's not common in today's society. Everybody's so quick to judge. Everybody's so quick to point a finger or to call you out for no apparent reason other than to make themselves feel better. Mm-hmm. And we don't do that. That's part of our obligations, right? That's right. We meet on the level. So that's one of the biggest takeaways that I think I've had since you threw that question at me and I hadn't had a chance to think about it.
I think you touched on something very important, though, is it is an organization that is designed to humble, right?
Yeah.
We all meet on the level. How many past grands have I seen sit in a lodge that wear a plain white apron? They don't wear their past grandmaster apron. They don't, some of them don't even want to be addressed as most worshipful most of the time. It's either brother or just whatever their first name is. And it is very humbling in that aspect that all these men want to bring themselves to the same level and just be a brother, and be there for you and support you and expect the same out of you, right?
Right.
And when you live in a world where, if you go to certain states, there's various cultures where it's who's who? Who's that guy? Is he going to be beneficial to me, or is this guy beneath me? Should I not talk to them? It's nice to have a place where everyone's just I just want to hang out. Yeah. I just want friends. I don't need to always be worried about, am I presenting myself as I should be as somebody higher up, or should I not be talking to this man? He's too influential. It's nice to have a place where it's just everyone's just loosen up and relax. You're in good hands. You're with brothers.
It's especially beneficial for you today because we're willing to forgive you for being an hour late because we're brothers.
Did I tell you I won?
Oh, you guys won? Darn it. I was hoping hurling season would be over after this one.
We got one more game, then playoffs, and then we'll see how we do.
Oh, I thought this was playoffs already. Dang it. This guy.
I'm a talented man with many hobbies. Well, two hobbies.
You have many hobbies. Talented's questionable.
How dare you? You've only came to one of my games. You don't know what I'm capable of.
Fair. Well, what do you think? You got any more questions for Paul? Or should we let him off the hook since we're running late?
I have one more question.
Okay, I'll try to have an answer.
The classic.
Oh, yeah. Go for it.
You should ask it.
No, you go for it.
What would be your advice to give to an incoming master just ascending the Oriental chair as a past master? What would be your advice?
Enjoy the ride. It goes fast. Plan and be diligent, but enjoy the ride. Everybody that's joining the chairs or getting in a line or that's taking the East for the first time, you're going to get all kinds of advice thrown at you. Listen to it all, but be your own man. That's the beauty about this fraternity is every year there's a new worshipful master. Every year there's a new set of ideas. There's a new set of goals. There's a new way to do things. And that's how you grow as a person. That's how you grow as a man. That's how you grow as a Mason. Just adapt, enjoy the ride.
Awesome.
That's excellent advice.
Thank you so much for coming on and joining us today. Thank you for your courage, and I'm happy that you found actual Masonry because I can tell that you're an asset to the fraternity and something that is super helpful to the craft. So thank you so much for coming on.
I agree with everything he said, and thank you again for coming on and for being patient today.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun. Thank you.
All right, it's now time for news and events. So, what do we got going on in Wisconsin? Well, I got some cool news that I just received in our inbox about a very cool opportunity coming up in the state of Wisconsin. So coming out of Watoma, they're hosting the Wisconsin Principal Officers Conference, which will equip Lodge leaders with strategic planning skills. The Wisconsin Principal Officers Conference brings together Lodge officers from across the state for a day of intensive training in Lodge and strategic planning. So this event is going to be on the 21st of September. So mark your calendars now. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it aims to equip the principal officers with skills and knowledge necessary to lead their lodges effectively, strategically in the coming years. It's going to be hosted by Laverne Hansen Masonic Center, which is in Watoma, and you can look up their information online. The conference features a series of workshops and presentations led by experienced leaders in the fraternal organization community. Attendees can learn best practices in building management, goal setting, calendar and event planning, bylaw changes, and strategic planning. So we got a quote here from Worshipful Brother Adam Rigdon saying, "We are thrilled to provide principal officers with the tools they need to succeed in their roles and lead their lodges to new heights." So there's a lot of great opportunities here for strategic planning, which is going to be successful for all long-term endeavors. We talk about that on the podcast quite a bit. And we believe that investing in the development of our leaders is key to ensuring the vitality of lodges. So throughout the day, participants will engage in interactive sessions that encourage collaboration, problem solving, and strategic thinking. And they'll have a chance to network with fellow lodge leaders and share insights and experiences. So this is going to be a really cool meeting and a great opportunity to really learn some awesome skills. For more information, please reach out to Worshipful Brother Adam Rigdon, and you can email him at watoma148@gmail.com to reserve your seats. It's going to be $20 per person, which is going to include coffee and carbs and lunch. So the news event today is kind of a mix between news and events, but something that's definitely worth checking out. On to events. On July 20th, Buffalo River Lodge is having their 9th annual golf outing at Hickory Hills Golf Course. That's going to be in Eau Claire. Registration's at 11 a.m. through 12:30 p.m. They're going to have a shotgun start at 12:30 p.m. as well. It's going to be a 4-person scramble, and it's $85 per person. And there more information you can be found in your Masonic Journal as far as registration is concerned. On July 24th, the 11th annual Collins Spring Valley Golf Tournament. It's going to be held at Hammond's Golf Course. The check-in is at 11 a.m. and the tournament itself starts at 12 p.m. To RSVP, please RSVP by July 19th, which is tomorrow. You can contact Brother Jeff Olson, and you can find the registration information within your Wisconsin journals. On the 26th of July, Prairie View Lodge number 95 is having their 6th annual golf scramble. It's going to start at 9 a.m. It's going to be $85 a person with a shotgun start. It's going to be at the Utica Golf Club, which is in Oshkosh. To register, you can do that online at prairieviewlodge.org. It's going to be a 4-person scramble, like I mentioned, and the $85 includes 18 holes of golf, the cart, hot dogs and chips for lunch, as well as a charcoal chicken dinner. There's going to be door prizes and a hole-in-one prize, which would be a Massey Ferguson compact tractor. Wow. If you're interested, please contact Brother Ron Treemstra. and you can find their registration form also within the Wisconsin Masonic Journal. On to August. On August 3rd, we have the 4th annual Wisconsin Widow Sons Charity Ride. The proceeds are going to benefit the Grandmaster's Appeal, and more information is forthcoming. Also on August 3rd, we'll be having Masons Go to the Fair. It's going to be an event that is being facilitated by Lake Lodge 189 and the III Jolly Badgers, which are the pirates of III. And they beckon you to join them at a pirate weekend at the Bristol Ren Fair. So this is going to be a fun event. I'm going to be going. I have bought a pirate costume that I'm excited to whip out. So you can just buy your tickets at the Ren Fair's website. Otherwise, you can get a good deal at Menards to get a little bit of savings. And so basically, we're just going to be all meeting there, and we'll set out a place where all the brothers can meet, and we're just checking out the fair and seeing how many, a good fellowship opportunity, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum and all that. So we will be there on August 3rd. From August 7th through August 10th, the Midwest Shrine Association is having their 2024 summer session. It's going to be hosted at the Zor Shriners in La Crosse. So if you're planning on attend that, make sure you put that on your calendars. On August 8th, Columbus Lodge number 75 is having the Pete Lee Live. It's going to be a $20 event at the Kestrel Ridge Golf Club. For more information on this, please call Bill. More information is included in the journal. Doesn't have a last name, so we're going to do our best judgment there, or you could reach out to Columbus Lodge number 75. On August 15th, North Star Lodge number 187 in Star Prairie is having their annual Oxcart Days Street Dance. It's going to be from 4:30 to 10 p.m. On August 16th through 17th, Oshkosh Lodge number 27 is having their 175 years of Oshkosh Freemasonry and 100 years of the Oshkosh Masonic Center. So it's going to be a really cool event. It's going to be from the 16th through the 17th with 2 events included in there. And for more information, you can actually go to OshkoshFreemasons.com/celebration. On August 25th, Oregon Lodge number 151 is having their first responder celebration. So it's going to be a big event. It seems like it's an outdoor type of dealio with a bounce castle and all sorts of good stuff, raising money for the first responders. They will have a variety of equipment and sounds like first responder vehicles on site, and it's fun for the whole family. It's going to be from 2:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Spring Street in Oregon. The community-based family event is going to be a good time, and it's going to be celebrating the Oregon Fire and EMS District for their 130 years of service. Last but not least, in August, we have on August 29th, Lake Lodge is having our Lux Golf social event. This is a really cool event and a brainchild of one of our more newer officers. It's going to actually be $15 a person, and you can RSVP via Brother Ethan Rosenlund by August 19th. You can pay him via PayPal or reach out to him personally to see about figuring out other ways of payment if you don't have that. It's going to be at the Lux Golf in Franklin. We have a 30-person cap, and pricing is going to be based on turnout. So if we get up to 30, if we get 30 people, it'll be $15, but it could fluctuate if we get less. We could also potentially expand that too, but essentially, if you've never played Lux Golf, imagine kind of like bowling where you're in like a lane, but you have golf clubs and you hit balls, you enjoy some food, hang out, and have some good fellowship. So this is a really, really fun event. For more information as far as Ethan's contact information, the easiest way to find that is on any of Lake Lodge's social media, or the flyers you'll see being circulated will have that information as well. But that will be our news and events. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and as always, check us out on social media via Facebook, X, TikTok, and Instagram. And you can always email us at timeforfellowship@gmail.com. So thanks for tuning in, and have a good day.